the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight him. He tries a right hand, and down goes the ball straight away.
Oh, what a point to end it on.
So now gives us winner at the bench. And winner 12 years with it. So drink it in.
Still goes to Austin.
What he loves to be immortality as an athlete. 19.79. It's a goal. It's 8 goals. With the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight him. He tries a right hand, and down goes the ball straight away.
Oh, what a point to end it on.
So now gives us winner at the bench. And winner 12 years with it. So drink it in.
Still goes to Austin.
What he loves to be immortality as an athlete.
Welcome to yet another exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. This edition of the Sports Extraordinary is focused on the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Of course, you know that the Super Eagles of Nigeria are in the semi-final of the 34th edition of the African Cup of Nations. We look at how some highlights around the African Cup of Nations, especially concerning the Super Eagles. And beyond that, we could bring you one or two coming in from the world of Formula One, where Lewis Hamilton is beginning to change gear, I must tell you. These days of this are many more on the program this evening, but first we'll take a break. When we return from the break, we'll let you know some highlights around the Super Eagles sweep into the semi-final of this year's African Cup of Nations.
19.79. With the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight him. He tries a right hand, and down goes the ball straight away.
Oh, what a point to end it on.
So now gives us winner at the bench. And winner 12 years with it. So drink it in.
Still goes to Austin.
What he loves to be immortality as an athlete. 19.79. It's a goal. It's 8 goals.
From the line across the ocean.
With the goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Fight him. He tries a right hand, and down goes the ball straight away.
Welcome back. It's the Weekend Sports Extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network. And this weekend, I have with me Kinsley Marwood. Nice to have you, Kinsley.
Thank you very much for having me, Siri. Very happy to be here this evening.
Well, our focus this weekend is on the 15th appearance of the Super Eagles at the African Cup of Nations semi-final. They've been to the semi-finals of the African Cup of Nations 15 times out of available 19 times that Nigeria has appeared at the African Cup of Nations. They have played in the semi-final with this edition now 15 times. So that's quite a remarkable feat for any country playing at the African Cup of Nations. You enter into the competition 19 times and you play up to the semi-final 15 times. That's quite a big one. Only yesterday we saw the Super Eagles go past the Antelopes of Angola, Palenga Negras of Angola, by 1-0. What looks like a hard fourth victory for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. On this edition of the program, we're looking at the fallout from that event. And first, we would like to look at their performances. Do you think their performances is good enough for them to be in the semi-final of this year's African Cup of Nations?
Yes, of course. I think it's good enough. We're seeing a very, very understandable Super Eagles team. We've seen a very, very good Super Eagles team, of course, that has more energy. It has more synergy. We've seen players, of course, not playing for self-glory. We've seen the players, of course, playing, to achieve, one goal. And I think that's what has helped the Super Eagles of Nigeria to get down to this stage. The game against Angola yesterday, of course, was a very, very interesting game. And I think this is when the Super Eagles, of course, they're beginning to, test countries that, of course, that are up to task, when it comes to this African Cup of Nations. From the defense down to the midfield and down to the attack, we saw that synergy, of course, from the team in the defense. We saw the likes of, Calvin Bassey, of course, William Trusekong. They were very, very fantastic, of course, in the defense line of Simi Ajayi, of course, was not left out down there. In the midfield, the likes of Alex Iwobi, of course, really stepped up this game yesterday, because in the past games, of course, he's been playing. We've not really seen, that much action from Alex Iwobi. We saw him giving those killer passes, and as well trying that outside 18-yard shot, and that is what, of course, is expected, from a midfielder like him. Up front, Ademola Lookman, Victor Osimhen, of course, were very fantastic. Yes, Victor Osimhen actually scored, but his goal, of course, was ruled out due to the fact that it was offside. But Ademola Lookman, of course, looked like someone, of course, who actually came to this AFCON for business, looking very physical, and, of course, creating the chances and as well getting the goal. 3 goals for him already in this African Cup of Nations. And for me, if you take a look at that display yesterday for the Super Eagles of Nigeria, I think they merit to be in the semi-final of the competition.
Super Eagles of Nigeria merit to be in the semi-finals of the competition via that quarter-final victory over the Antelopes of Angola. 1-0 did end yesterday, but still looking at reaction and fallout from that fixture. Coach Pesero didn't make changes up till 80th minute of that encounter. That looks very shocking, given that the players were playing under very humid and heaty field conditions, and they were looking tired at the stage. But Coach Pesero didn't make changes early enough, so to say. He waited till just about 10 minutes before the encounter. In fact, Victor Osimhen, that was so tired in the game, was changed in the 90th minute. And a lot of people are beginning to think that Coach Pesero, maybe substitution could have cost us the match if there was anything, because if the Angolas had scored an equalizing goal, they could have maybe, because of the spur of the moment, gotten the second goal, because the Super Eagles players were very tired. In fact, at the time Coach Pesero made his first change, Angola has made 4 changes.
Yeah, and one thing we should understand about Pesero, in this African Cup of Nations, is that he's so careful, with his substitution. You don't see him, of course, substituting players in the 60th minutes or 70th minutes, in this African Cup of Nations. You see him coming up with substitution, at the 80th minutes, for the game. And I think the man is just so comfortable, of course, with his first 11, and that's what we've seen so far. I think it was at the 80th minute where he actually brought in Alex Iwobi.
Brought in Al-Hassan.
Yes, Al-Hassan, of course, in that one. And at some point, he has to substitute Victor Osimhen for Paul Onuachu.
That was in the 90th minute.
90th minutes. And for me, I think probably he has a reason just for Paul Onuachu, of course, to come, waste time and, finish the game, in that particular one. So for me, for what I've seen, I think the boys, they've actually understood themselves very well. They understand themselves, and it's not good for you to actually, twerk a winning team. If you do that, it might as well, cause a very huge damage. So you just have to maintain what you have, because when you take a look at this crop of players that Pesero has been using to execute these matches, you know that they really have much of understanding among themselves. And you ask, why is he still using Alex Iwobi, of course, in the midfield? In the different matches you've seen, that's the reason. The reason because Alex Iwobi, of course, has that understanding among the players on the ground. So Pesero has been very, very careful in terms of substitution. He doesn't want to just make any substitution, because this is the winning team. This is the team, of course, he has been using since the start of the African Cup of Nations, and they've been delivering. So you don't actually twerk a team that has actually been giving you the results, anyhow. So for me, if you take a look at his substitution, I don't think it has been wrong. I think the man has been top-notch. Taking out the player at the 80th minute, for me, it is not that bad, depending on how, of course, he sees the game, as the manager. of the side?
Well, the coach, Jose Pesero, making changes very, very late in the encounter between Nigeria and Angola. A lot of people believe that some of the Silver Eagles players were tired. They needed to rejuvenate, bring in players like Omero, at the stage, and Alassane, maybe a little bit earlier so that the players can be, can reserve some of their strength. But coach getting it right, as long as he got the maximum 3 points, everything he did was right, of course. I'm still looking about the contribution of the coach and players, that some of them have been on the bench. We are into the semi-final of the African Cup of Nations for 2023, played in 2024. But some players, a lot of people would think should have been mentioned in the team, are yet to even see a second on the pitch. Players like Kelechi Iheanacho, Terry Murphy, these are players who somehow a lot of Nigerians believe that should have some part to play in this year's African Cup of Nations. But the ones that are there seem to be getting results.
Yeah, they seem to be getting results, and it becomes difficult for the coach, of course, to make decision. It becomes difficult for Pesero.
Well, let me see. I think I seem to be getting our analyst, our Nations Cup analyst, Osakwe. Are you there, Osakwe?
Yes, I'm standing by. I'm happy to be here again.
Okay. Well, we were looking at the fallout from the Super Eagles encounter yesterday. Angola, of course, were beaten by 1-0. And one of the principal things a lot of people have been talking about, serious-minded analysts have been talking about, first is the contribution of, the contribution of the coach. 90 minutes, that was when, in fact, in the 80th minute, that was when he made his very first change. Before he made that first change, Angola has made 4 changes. Earlier, I remember you talked about heat condition yesterday, and we meant that players could be given some more, not just water, but giving some time to rest. And so if you had a player who has played up to 70 minutes, could make changes, like when we saw the Angolans making 4 changes, from that, even the 56 minutes or so. But Pesero didn't make his own changes. And a lot of people are saying that if Angola scored an equalizing goal, they would have gone ahead to maybe get a second goal, because most of the Nigerian players were getting tired. Victor Osimhen was substituted in the 90th minute, and we had just about 7 minutes of added time. So is Coach Pesero not getting it right, or it should be a little bit more careful?
Yeah, when you look at the way we found out yesterday, you wouldn't really blame Pesero because first of all, we had players going down for injuries. Not really sure. One issue with Frank Onyeka, who according to the coach, wanted to play on even if he was carrying a knock, until it was not until the captain to pointed it out to the coaches that look, Onyeka needs to be taken off because he was carrying that knock and it was beginning to affect his play. So the way yesterday game found that it was difficult for Sarah to really figure out what change to make, because Frank Onyeka, especially in that middle of the park, and Alex Iwobi, we are fantastic in that game. They carried the team. They were breaking up the play from the Angolans, and they were also passing the ball briefly. Frank Onyeka became a ball carrier, carrying the ball at times from the defense to the attack. So, but the only issue I had with Pesero and his substitutions was that for Victor Osimhen, and then of course when he had to bring in Joe Aribo. That's the only issue I had. But whether he should have made the substitutions earlier, maybe he should have made them earlier. But we need to be careful how those substitutions are made, because the moment Joe Aribo came into that game, he couldn't, he didn't give us the same level of commitment that Alex Iwobi and Frank Onyeka had given us, and so it may just cost us the game. But thankfully enough, we came victorious, and we see what happens in the semi-final.
Talking about the semi-final encounter, a lot of people talking about Coach Jose Pesero and substitution. A lot of people believe that we still have some star players on the bench who have not been given some chance, and maybe you should begin to give them some opportunity. Kelechi Iheanacho, Terry Murphy, do you think these players should be given some playing time in spite of what is going on presently with the first and of course reserve team of the squad? I'm very sure that Osakwe is not getting to hear me clearly, but we're talking about Terry Murphy and of course Kelechi Iheanacho being given some playing time alongside.
The thing is, you really don't want to change a winning side. We found a winning formula. Remember, don't forget that Jose Pesero has had a lot of games with these boys. There have been experiments. It's been chopping and changing. The results were unfavorable. We had so many games just even before the friendlies. We had those friendlies, and then we had a couple of World Cup qualifiers. The results weren't what we desired. And now that the man has found his winning formula, people are saying he should change. Change for what? You don't change a winning team. This team has carried us from the first game. In the first game, it was a 4-3-3 formation. Joseph Pesep and his team of coaches sat down to say, look, maybe we should go to a 3-4-3. We've been playing 3-4-3 ever since, and it's favored us. Why change the formation? Why change the playing style to the same playing style? Except there's an injury to any starter, then we can talk about bringing in replacements. But for now, the team is good. The players are doing well. The starters are doing well. I don't see any reasons why anyone should be brought in for now. But you know, having said that, yes, there are star players on the bench. There's Ahmed Musa, there's Kekina, whom of course came into this tournament injured. He hasn't had any playing time, and I'm worried about his match fitness. But for players like Terry Murphy, yes, maybe we could give him a chance. Maybe we've given Bright Osai Samuel a chance. Onward has played. Maybe in the next couple of games, if we are able to, lucky enough to score, maybe say 2-3 goals before the end of the game, we could bring in one of them. But you don't make such changes, such crucial changes with just one goal ahead. Remember, just any chance and your opponents can equalize, and you may just end up losing the game.
Okay, let's look at one other department of the game that a lot of people are talking about. The Super Eagles are into the semi-finals after scoring 6 goals and conceding only 1 goal. Prior to this Nations Cup, Ole Osimhen scored 10 to qualify Nigeria for the Nations Cup. At the Nations Cup, it looks like his goals scoring boots are worn out. Will you prefer an Osimhen that plays for the team, or an Osimhen that just enters into the business of just scoring goals for the team? Because right now we've seen him win 2 Man of the Match award in 2 games, but he's not scoring goals, but he's getting this award.
Well, for me to I think the Man of the Match awards he has had are well deserved. Yes, he's not scoring, but I have noticed something that Victor Osimhen does, and that we are beginning to capitalize on. In the game against Cameroon, we saw how each time he is with the ball, he tends to attract 2 or 3 player opponent. We also saw that against Angola. For the first goal, the one and only goal that Lukman scored, Victor Osimhen was able to attract 2 defenders to himself, giving Lukman a chance behind him to slot that in. So I think that's one area where we are beginning to get it right. And about the goal scoring, football is about goals, we understand, but yet it's also about conceding them. Well, I don't know what I should say. Sometimes high scoring teams tend to concede more, and then low scoring teams tend to concede at all. We've been able to do this thing from the defense. And I think so far so good. Yes, we may not be scoring, but 6 goals, 5 games is not such an untidy return. It's an average of about 1 point something a game, which is not so bad. Given the fact, of course, that we do concede. So for me, let's keep it this way. Because if we want to concentrate on goal scoring, we may just lose the defensive block that we've been able to build. We may lose that resilience in defense that we've been able to build. So let's stay this way. Yeah, 2 says we cannot get more goals. If we create chances, though, it's just conversion that's not a problem. It's not that the chances are not created. In the game against Angola yesterday, we created about 3-4 chances. We were able to convert one. If we convert our chances, I'm sure people will be talking about goal scoring. All we have to do is to go back, think about how to convert those goals. But whether they are creating chances, yes, they are creating chances. It's just the conversion that's been the problem.
The Super Eagles creating chances, but to convert has been difficult. Victor Osimhen, Osakwe, you have to answer that question. Victor Osimhen, the goal scorer, or the workaholic in the team? Which one will you prefer?
He's a both. If you look at the way he plays in Napoli, he does a little bit of both. He has some defenders. He creates good chances for his teammates to score. He also gets good. But somehow, Victor Osimhen has a couple of scoring chances. I don't know what the issue is. In the game against National Team of Equatorial Guinea, he missed what you would call a star. Yesterday he was unlucky to have that goal chalked off, and then just before that, or maybe after that, he had that chance again where there were 2 defenders. He was sandwiched by 2 defenders, managed to get past them, but he wasn't able to slot it home. Just at the point where he was supposed to hit back of the net, the defender, the Angolan defender intervened, and it was a corner kick. yes, Victor still remains a goal scorer, a very good one at that. If he wasn't that dangerous a goal scorer, I'm not sure the defenders would be swarming around him the way they do. It's because they know his prowess as a goal scorer. That's why each time he gets the ball, try to run around him to try to see what they can do, and that creates chances for us. So I love Victor Osimhen the way he is, a goal scorer, a workaholic, the man who creates chances for other people to score.
Well, let's look at what a lot of people did not know of the Super Eagles before this Nations Cup, and that is the defense line. In the words of Coach Jose Peseiro, his opinion is that he is defending with 11 men and attacking with 11 men. But he is a proponent of what they call creating of block. He's creating block, in that Super Eagles defense line. This defense block has considered only 1 goal in 4 matches. And somehow I stumble into the fact that the discipline we have seen of the Super Eagles defense at this year's African Cup of Nations has to do with the mentality of the defenders. All 4 of them, born outside of Europe. They learned their football early in Europe, and so they are an embodiment of the system. They just play according to the team system and get it right. Is it correct that because these players were born outside of Nigeria, especially that's the reason why there's that discipline to tactics and formation? You're talking about Calvin.
I don't think so. I really don't know. It's the block in our defense.
Yeah, but no. Look at it. William Trostekon born outside of Nigeria. I know born outside of Nigeria. Zaidu Sanisi. Zaidu Sanisi, well, is the only one in that defense line that is not born from Nigeria. But at least we have 4 defenders born outside of Nigeria. Calvin Bassi. Mention them.
Olaipo was born outside of Nigeria. Calvin Bassi, William Trostekon, and Semi Ajayi.
Yes.
I understand, but I don't think it has anything to do with. If you remember clearly, this was the same defense. Semi Ajayi also played in the game against Lesotho in Uyo. Olaipo was in that game. I don't know what I can't remember that 2 seconds was there. This was just maybe about the same defense that conceded goal against Saudi Arabia in the friendlies, against Iran, against Lesotho, and against Zimbabwe. It has nothing to do with whether they were born in and around Nigeria. I think the missing link in that defense was in that back line was a capable goalkeeper, a goalkeeper that could instill confidence in the defense and in the players. Right? If you go back to the games that we didn't do, in the games where we didn't do well, especially against those 4 qualifiers against Lesotho and Zimbabwe, you realize that the couple of goals we conceded in those games were goalkeeping errors. At those goals not gone in, we'll be talking about the defense not conceded goals in competitive games prior to the tournament. So Jose Peseiro understood that he needed to do something about the goalkeeping department, identified it as a problem, did something to solve the problem by approaching Nwabale at Chippa United in South Africa, brought him into the side. That's why we have seen the kind of changes we have seen. I don't think it has anything to do with whether the players were born in or outside of Nigeria. Put any back 4, let them understand the philosophy of the team, bring in our CM who was born in Nigeria. You could even bring in Omero who was also in Nigeria, and I bet you have seen.
Well, still talking about that defense line, we saw the Angolas have only 2 shots on target in the entire in the match, 90 minutes plus added time yesterday. Only 2 shots that were on target. But you talked about goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali. That 4th minute left-handed save, you think it was a crucial one, maybe one that could make him the goalkeeper of the tournament?
Yeah, he made 2 crucial saves in that game. There were 2 shots on target, like rightly mentioned. One that was supposed to be a shot on target, hit the strong with the upright. In the 4th minute of that encounter, crucial change, beautiful position by Stanley Nwabali. If that goal had been, I'm not sure anybody would be pinning him, but he managed to keep that one out. And then in the second half, when the subs were made, the left touch from one of the players that for Angola, Stanley Nwabali managed to push that out of danger for Nigeria. Yes, Mr. Cyril, I would like you to remember that a certain Alain Komeni for Cote d'Ivoire went through an entire AFCON tournament in 1992 in Senegal without conceding a goal. Apart from the goal that National Thunder of Equatorial Guinea against Super Eagles, Stanley Nwabali has not conceded any. If it continues this way, I'm sure this team is beginning to be so difficult to score against. For now, they met a free scoring Angola side that has scored 9 goals in the tournament. They didn't concede against them. They didn't concede against the Ivorians, who had scored 3 just before that game or 2 before that game. didn't concede against the Guinea-Bissau players, and so they are beginning to have that character of a team that's difficult to score against. If it continues like this, Stanley Wabali, I think, emerged as the best keeper of this tournament. And let me just mention something I realized, something I observed about Alex Iwobi in the middle of the park, how the defenders help how the midfielders tend to help the defense. In the game against Equatorial Guinea, it was Alex Iwobi's football that led to the goal. And then again yesterday against Angola, the same Alex Iwobi went to sleep and gave the Angola that chance, with which they struck the upright. That tells you the importance of the midfielders to this team, the importance of especially Alex Iwobi. Each time he goes to sleep, we tend to be in danger. We either concede or we are about to concede. And so I'm sure the coaches have also looked at it, and I'm sure they'll be in ears telling him not to relent, not to stop, because the 2 times he went to sleep, one resulted in the goal, the other almost resulted in the goal.
Okay, well, talking about goal and the goalkeepers, Stanley Wabali, a lot of people believe that he has to do with his makeup. I've been studying most of the players. Stanley Wabali, a Port Harcourt boy, through and through. Is in fact, someone said to me, he has seen 99, so 100 didn't matter after all. And that's the reason why he's very bold, talking to defenders who have been in the team long before he arrived in the team. And of course, having no respect for any opposition. What do you think?
Well, we've had debate about coaches who tell you for the national team they don't like to bring in home-based goalkeepers because there will be too much respect for the foreign-based players. Sometimes you can't argue with them. They see these players close and personal, and maybe that's why we've not looked inwards to bring in home-based goalkeepers, because I want to imagine that if it was a home-based goalkeeper, maybe you wouldn't have the should I use the word effrontery or density to talk to a player like Trustekong or Isiwobi. But we've seen Stanley Wabali, who has gone on to Chippa United. He plays in South Africa. It's no longer new to him. Yes, South Africa is not Europe, but it's outside the shores of Nigeria. And then, of course, yes, he plays with players that he thinks are par with the ones he has met in Super Eagles, and that's why he's not afraid to talk to them. He's not afraid to shout at them. Then again, the same Uzo also plays abroad, and we see that sometimes Uzo tends to be maybe a little bit timid when it comes to talking to this player. But we saw how one shouted at Iwobi yesterday, trying to get him to listen to instructions. He was also at one point in time talking to Trustekong and pointing his index fingers to his head, maybe trying to let him know that, look, you must be calm and you must use your head. So I love what I've seen about him. I love his confidence. I love the way he organizes defense. I love the way he talks to his players. And if he does this way, like I said, we may just have found the rare gem, a rare successor, or the successor we'll be looking for to a certain Vincent in Japan.
Okay, let's look at an off-field incident that happened yesterday. The president of Nigeria, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, made a phone call through to the team before that encounter. Did it have any effect on what happened on the pitch?
We've had incidents in the past where players receive calls from. It's nothing new. It's not new to us. The players should be used to it, and I don't think it should be any honest anymore. In the past, we've had stories like they receive calls like this, and it tends to put them off track. They tend to lose concentration. Mr. Cyril, guys, these boys play for big teams in Europe. Victor Osimhen, I'm sure, must have had the Napoli president, coming to his dressing room, at one point or the other. It's nothing new to them to phone calls from dignitaries and from presidents. So I don't think he had effect. The phone call didn't come before we played against the Lions of Cameroon. There was 2 phone calls before they played against the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire. They managed to win those games. I don't think Bola Ahmed Tinubu's phone call had anything to do with it. But that's not to say that it wasn't a good one. It was a good one for the president. Maybe trying to, show them, of course, ensure them that they have the support of the whole country. I saw certain videos where, several celebrities were celebrating the victory of the Super Eagles. I saw a video of Peter Obi in the stadium. It tells you that this is one thing that unites us, and so many Nigerians, the kind of support they are receiving now, didn't get it, this type of support in 2 years ago in Cameroon. And I'm sure they are being made aware of it, and hence the call from the president to let them know that, look, Nigerians are in support, please do not disappoint us. And their team song, each time they want to go into the pitch, is never worry, we will disappoint you. Nigerians, worry, we will not disappoint you. So a good one from the president of the country, Ahmed Tinubu.
Ahmed Tinubu visiting, giving a phone call through to the players yesterday before that match, and a lot of people believe that he lifted the spirit of the players. Don't forget, these players they have not received their money, but the promises have been made. Central Bank, we understand, is processing their payments, and it will be delivered to the boys right on time. We talked about it here yesterday, but I want to put it out again to you, Okwi. The Super Eagles seem to be getting it right, especially with players or countries which they've had it difficult in the past. Equatorial Guinea, remember their history with Nigeria. Ivory Coast, their history with Nigeria at the crucial stage of the Nations Cup. Cameroon as well, they've had a very torrid time with us at the Nations Cup. It looks like these Super Eagles of class of 2023 or 2024 is on a revenge mission to clear out with every country that's had problem with us. Talking about Angola. Angola in 2005 stopped Nigeria from going to the 2006 World Cup. Then in 1989, we could not go to the 1990 World Cup because of Angola, who are, in that match where our, very promising player, Samuel Okparaji, died. So it looks like this class of 24 has revenge against Angola, has revenge against Cameroon. They have done so against Equatorial Guinea, and they've done so against Cote d'Ivoire. I don't know whether we have any grudge against Cape Verde or South Africa, and that will be coming next in our semi-final fixture. What do you think? Revenge? Well, we seem to be having a little bit of drop back on Okuyo Sakwe, our nation. Okay.
Good observation. I have not looked at it in that light, but I am trying to understand where you're coming from. When I said before the game against Angola, if we want to talk about revenge, we may just be distracted. Football is the game of the day, and it's between 11 men. History has nothing to do with it. Future has nothing to do with it. It's all about the present. You take chances on the and you score. And I'm sure the players must have had that drummed in their hearts. Of course, they made aware of the history, but they must have had that drummed in their minds that, look, just concentrate on the game for today. And now, if we want to go by that narrative, it will mean we may not do well against South Africa or against Cape Verde, our next two opponents, or one of them will be our next opponent. South Africa in the 2000 knocked them out of the 2000 in semi-final, where we beat them by 2-0. So that's revenge for them. For Cape Verde, we've not had any victory. There's no reason to talk about. If revenge are motivated, then we are ready to come back after the semi-final. But I'm sure that's not the players have in their minds. They should be thinking about how to defeat the next opponent that comes their way, whether it's South Africa or whether it's Cape Verde, without anything like revenge in the minds of players. So I do not agree with you here, Mr. Craig. I don't think big over this, the elephants, and the antelopes has anything to do with revenge.
Okay, I know you want to keep your eye more on the match. There is ongoing Mali, and what do you make of it, Mali and the opponents in this year's semi-final, third quarter-final fixture at the AFCON 2024-23?
I was on the screen before I had to join, so I've not gone back to the screen. But the last time I left the game was a nil-up scoreline for both teams. A Malian was about to be stretched out of the pitch. I've not seen the action since then. I hope that you release me soon so that I go back to enjoy the AFCON quarter-final match between the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire and the Mali.
I was just going to let you go now because I will need you back at halftime. But as we speak, it's into the 37th minute, and it is Cote d'Ivoire no goal and Mali no goal. Mali, incidentally, is the home side in this fixture and not Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire is away in this particular fixture. So I can let you go, keep an eye on it, but return back when we have the match is into halftime so that we can look at this fixture as well together. Thank you very much, Okwi, for being part of this part of the show.
Thank you, Mr. Say. I already joined you by halftime.
All right. And of course, I still have with me Kingsley Manuel. Kingsley, that's where I know Okuyo Sakwe giving his thoughts on the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Will you want to react to one or two your opinion, or do I say points made there by Okuyo Sakwe?
Yeah, of course, I really want to react, on the part, of course, where he actually pointed out the fact that, Pesero, of course, just being careful of not really making, of not, being very quick or fast, when you want to make, substitution. Of course, you already have a winning team, and that's the mentality, of course, that should be, for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in this particular competition. When you twerk, a winning team, at some point it becomes a little bit difficult, of course, for them to synergize and have what it takes, of course, to deliver. So for me, I think from what we've seen so far, it's really been a stable team. We just hope that they improve the mentality of winning, they improve the mentality of always playing together, and improve that mentality of scoring. And talking about Victor Osimhen not scoring or being a workaholic, I think doing both, of course, is actually good at this stage of the competition, especially now that we're in the semi-final or for the competition. If he can actually do that workaholic, aspect of for the game, and as well probably he would have actually got a goal yesterday, if not that goal he scored was an offside goal. But for me, I think Victor Osimhen is actually doing the job. And if you take a look at it, if we expect Victor Osimhen, of course, to score, that means, of course, the midfielders really have to live up to expectation. Yes, they have the likes of Alex Iwobi, Frank Onyeka. I think they have, but I think they still need to do more. Victor Osimhen, sometimes you see him fall back, of course, to get the balls, to see what he can do, up front. And most of the time, of course, you won't also pardon him because he missed some chances as well. But for me, I think more of the ball getting to him, especially from the midfield or from the guys, from the flank, especially what we saw the likes of Moses Simon did yesterday. See how he was able to take the ball from the flank and give it to Ademola Lookman, of course, to score. If Osimhen, of course, can get more of those balls, I think he will be able to score. He's a very, very prolific goal scorer, and I think with a player like him up front, Super Eagles is really much assured of goals. So I think it's really been a very fantastic team, very fantastic AFCON tournament for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. We just hope, of course, to be able to get past their opponents, maybe Cape Verde or South Africa in the semi-final stage of the competition. I tell you, for me, I think the only mountain for the Super Eagles to climb now is just the semi-final stage. Anything that makes them go to the final, Mr. Siri, I see the Super Eagles, of course, lifting this one, but we just have to wait till they get there.
Let's wait till we get there, and the Super Eagles should not bother much about what happens in the final. They win the semi-final fixture, and we will know. But like we say, we will know that tonight. We have South Africa and Cape Verde coming up at 9 p.m. Nigerian time. But as we speak now, Mali and the home team in the fixture today against Cote d'Ivoire. Of course, the all-known home side. A lot of people are supporting them. The stadium is looking every orange-like, if you want me to describe it. But for now, it is still goalless. We hope this encounter will see 90 minutes plus added time and maybe extra time. And they have to be divided. If it's still the same in extra time, it has to be penalties. But for now, we're going towards the end of the first half with no goal scored on either side. And for us, we'd like to take a break. When we return from the break, we'll take some reactions and from what that fixture means to this year's African Cup of Nations. You know that the Ivorians were almost going to not qualify from the group stage, but they found a way to dig deep, and now they send home defending champions and the rest. But they still have a chance. And for Mali, coming this far with a group that had a combination of youthfulness. They've been together from the under-17, 21, under-21, and of course the side that were in the last Nations Cup. So it promises to be a very strong fixture tonight, where it looks very difficult to separate which side. But all of that, we will look into it when we return from this break. Stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what they blood.
I have fought very firmly.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Greenwoods went for goal. Goalkeeper missed it. He does a right hand and down goes Hooper straight away.
Welcome back. It's Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. The 34th edition of the African Cup of Nations in 67 years is on in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, and it is into the quarterfinal. Quarterfinal match number 3 is on between the host nation Ivory Coast and Mali. As we speak, first half is just about to end because we're in the other minutes of the first half, but it is goalless. In the 17 minutes, Mali had a chance of getting ahead through a penalty, but they missed that penalty. I'd like to get to you on that, Kingsley. What a miss from an Ivorian player in that fixture.
Of course, what a miss, of course, for Mali in that particular one. Adama Toure, of course, he was the one, of course, who missed that particular penalty. And I think they really, of course, that was a very huge miss, for them, because if they have actually, take that one, that would have been an advantage for them, heading to the second half, of that particular encounter. I think it's really been a very tough encounter from what we've seen so far. We've seen about 3 yellow cards being distributed in that game and 1 red card. So it's a very stiff encounter from what we've seen so far between Mali and Ivory Coast at the moment. These are two sides that are very, very desirous, of getting to the semi-final of this competition. You can talk about Mali, their roots down to this stage. You see them, of course, taking down big names, the likes of South Africa, of course, on their way. Even Ivory Coast as well, despite the fact that they had, a very, very rigorous, process in qualifying to the knockout stage. But they got to the knockout stage and were able to take down Senegal. So this competition really means a lot for Ivory Coast as well, knowing that, of course, they are the host. So hosting and winning it will be a very thing of joy as well, and a thing of pride for them. And I think that's why they are fighting at this point in time to see how they can suppress the Malians at this point in time. But the Malians, of course, they are not giving up. They're still trying to see if they can.
Talking about the Malians not giving up, right now they seem to have an advantage. Odion Okeseno was given a red card in the 44th minute of this fixture. So the home side, the Ivorians, are now beginning to play with a man short. Do you think this is advantageous to the Malians, or it will even give more impetus to Cote d'Ivoire to ensure that they move to the next stage of the competition, which is the semi-final?
For me, I think it's an advantage for the Malians if they will be able to capitalize this, particular loophole, at this point in time, because at some point in time you see a team, of course, being red carded, and instead of the opponents, of course, looking for advantage through that loophole, you see even the team that has been red carded, overshadowing of their opponent. For example, let me just make an example in the FIFA Women's World Cup. So I think that was the game between the Super Falcons and England, where, of course, one of the girls, of course, was red carded in the 3 Lionesses of England. But they still dominated the Super Falcons and still won. So it's actually the mindset, of the team. But for me, I think the Malians, they have advantage, looking at the fact that one of the Ivorian has been red carded.
Well, for Mali, they really have to get their acts right now because of the advantage they have against the Ivorians. But for the Ivorians, Kingsley, you talked about them, yes, host nation, the crowd is behind them. The government is behind them. They've spent as whooping $1.5 billion US to prepare for this tournament. And do you think they will want to just let it go like that from the quarterfinal stage of the competition? Do you think the support from the home side or from their fans will see them to? A lot of people talk about the 12th man on the pitch being the supporters.
Yes, of course. If you take a look at it, their fans have really been behind them. The fans have really been behind them so far in the competition. Right from the start of the game, the fans are always trooping in, of course, to cheer them up, to give them that support. So for me, I think the Ivorians, of course, they have what it takes, knowing that they have the 12th man down there to give them that particular support, as it is. I think the government for the country has done more, putting up that huge amount of money just to host this African Cup of Nations. I think it's then time for the players as well, to pay back, by putting up that impressive performance on the pitch of play. And so far, so good, despite, the setback they had in the group stage where they were beaten by Equatorial Guinea and the Super Eagles of Nigeria. I think they were able to learn their lesson after Morocco, of course, gave them that edge of qualifying, to the knockout stage. When they got against Senegal, they have to hold their own and take Senegal down, to that particular, that particular encounter. And now this is another, mountain for them to climb, and this is coming against Mali. And I think the boys really want to do everything they can. We have the likes of Christian Kwame, we have a Seko Fofana that's been very impressive. Nicolas Pepe as well is one man that everyone expects, to see more from him, but he has not really shown much. They still have a certain Frank Kessié in that particular one, but it's just unfortunate at the moment that one of their defender, talking about Odion, of course, has been red carded. But let's see what they'll be able to do in the second half of the encounter.
Half-time between Mali and host nation Cote d'Ivoire at the quarterfinal fixture, third quarterfinal fixture at the African Cup of Nations. We hope that the second half will bring good fortunes to either side, but it is half-time now and it is goalless between the two teams. And let's quickly take a look, because we're running out of time, on the other fixture coming up. A lot of Nigerians will be very interested in this 9 p.m. fixture tonight between Cape Verde and talking about South Africa, Bafana of South Africa. The winner of this tie will meet Nigeria in the semi-final of this year's Cup of Nations. Kisley, Cape Verde versus South Africa. Who do you think gets it?
It's a very tight encounter, Mr. Siri, because when you take a look at both sides, Cape Verde have been very fantastic. I think they are the highest scoring side in this African Cup of Nations with about 8 goals. So they're a high scoring side. The South Africans are also good as well.
The South Africans scored us 4 goals in this fixture. They're the only scored 4 goals in the match.
Yeah, and as well, the opponent they beat actually in the round of 16, Morocco. That's a very huge statement of intent if South Africa can take down Morocco down to this stage of the competition. So it's actually a very, very tight fixture. Both teams, of course, will be fighting very hard, of course, to get this particular one. So for me, I think it's all going to boil down to the tactical ability of the managers, how they'll be able to navigate, the players on the pitch of play. Because when you take a look at these two sides, they've been very fantastic in this competition. So for me, I can actually pinpoint who will get this one, but I still see the Cape Verdeans, of course, having an edge a bit, with this particular one, looking at how fantastic, of course, they've been in the group stage of the competition before getting down to the quarterfinals of the game.
Well, that's the much we can take on this edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition. But before we go, I'd like to remind you again that 9 p.m. Nigerian time, it will be Cape Verde up against South Africa. Nigeria's next opponent will emerge at the semi-final, will emerge from this fixture, but it's half-time now between Mali and Cote d'Ivoire, and it is goalless between Mali and Cote d'Ivoire. For our Sports Extraordinary for this weekend, it couldn't have been any other than Louis Hamilton. Louis Hamilton has been in the news in the last few days for his eminent movement to joining Ferrari from Mercedes. Kingsley, this man, he has 7 world championships in Formula 1. Only one player has that number with him in the rest of the world. And 103 races. He has won 103 races. No other person has that record as well. But he's now moving from one big franchise to another, from Mercedes to Ferrari.
For me, will I say it's a good move? Somewhere a good move, of course, for Lewis Hamilton at the moment, despite the fact that Mercedes are still trying to equip their car But I think moving to Ferrari, that comes 2025. I think he still has one more season with Mercedes before he moved down to Ferrari. For me, I think it's a good move. Let him go and try elsewhere and see maybe he can surpass that record of Max Schumacher of the 7-time, a championship, of course, he's won. Because I think that's what Lewis Hamilton is actually fighting for. He's equal now with Max Schumacher, being 7-time world champion. But can he get past that record? Maybe getting to Ferrari in 2025 might give him that edge.
Well, it's a weekend of African Cup of Nations, so our sports restaurant this weekend will be shared with a player at the African Cup of Nations. It couldn't have been any other person this weekend than Moses Simon, with that clinical pass that saw Ademola Lookman score Nigeria's only goal that took us to the semi-final of the African Cup of Nations. Moses Simon, Kingsley.
A rejuvenated Moses Simon, yesterday in that particular encounter against Angola. That was the Moses Simon we saw in Cameroon. And of course, he actually showed up that particular spirit yesterday. And if he keeps up with that, I tell you, we'll continue to see more of those, in-swingers and those passes.
That will be it for this edition of Sports Extraordinary. We'll definitely return back tomorrow with yet another very exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary, when our focus will be on semi-final pairings of the African Cup of Nations for 2023 being played in 2024. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.
Oh, what a point to end it on. So now this is when they're at their best.